All right, our final film of the evening that we're going to talk about is Judy. Once again, it's a 2019 biographical drama film based on the life of American entertainer Judy Garland, most famous for The Wizard of Oz. It was directed by Rupert Goold. It was based on the musical. It follows Garland's career during the last year of her life when she relocated her stage career to England, coupled with flashbacks of her childhood, most prominently the shooting of her part as Dorothy Gale in The Wizard of Oz from 1939. Her most famous film role. After some initial success in a run of sellout concerts at Talk of the Town in London, her efforts eventually stopped making progress and even start to worsen as her health deteriorates. So when we meet her, there it kind of bounces back between the abuse she took, and it was abuse, while making Wizard of Oz and being a contract actress with MGM, with where she is now, where she's performing with her kids. And there's a great conversation with the ex-husband who's like, she ends up back at his house because they don't have money to pay for their hotel. And he's like, it's the middle of the night and it's a school night. What are you doing? And there's Renee Zellweger as Judy Garland, like, you don't understand. I'm trying to perform. And, he's like, oh my God, you crazy person. Ugh, I don't want to spend the next hour telling you I have been that guy. Like trying to make sense out of a lunatic, justifying piss poor behavior. In any case, he's like, you really can't, though. These are children. They need structure. They need to go to school. They need to not be out in the middle of the fucking night, you lunatic. So she goes to a party. She meets a guy. This gets her a gig at Talk of the Town in England. So she goes there and she's living at home. That's where the rest of the movie pretty much takes place. And you really get, the movie is essentially about Judy Garland's mental illness that she has developed over the years. And it's like, but why? Why was Judy Garland a mental case in her 40s? Oh, because of the shit that happened to her when she was a child.
Well, and let's set the record straight on something. The depictions of the vast majority of that abuse, it kind of lets the audience off light in terms of giving them a full taste of just how bad notoriously how bad it's really well known.
There's some implied sexual abuse, but they don't show you any. The mostly it's just the feeding her drugs, starving her, so
not letting her sleep.
Not letting her, feeding her drugs to keep her up, feeding her more drugs so that she will sleep, starving her, and basically anytime she was like, "But I'm a real girl who needs food and sleep," they're like, "Yeah, but don't you want to be pretty and famous?" Like, that's not manipulative at the fuck all.
Well, let's just get the thematic acknowledgement out of the way right here.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest things to take away from this movie is that Hollywood is this remorseless, insatiable titan that is forever eating its own children almost as soon as it's born, and it especially relishes in equals. The younger they are, the sweeter to the titan.
I feel like we've covered some of this anytime that we've talked about like Drew Barrymore, who famously, was another child actress that was abused.
That's because it never fucking changes.
Yeah.
I mean, look at fucking Nickelodeon. Look at the Disney Channel. Look at everything that's coming to light now, and how there's this kind of ill foreboding feeling of
it's the dark side of what we were talking about with Stan Laurel, at the very top of the podcast, where I said, but the podcast is the thing, the show is the thing, the partnership is the thing, and the reminder of we're still fucking human beings. That's what I was trying to get at before. It's, when we get to Judy Garland here, there's no acknowledgement that this is a human. You are. It's funny. I've brought it up in the past. Alfred Hitchcock basically saying, like, actors are something like moving scenery. Like, this concept, like, we tend to think that this is like a new thing, but I think from like the birth of Hollywood, and probably before there was ever a Hollywood, before there was silent film, before there was film at all, there was the mentality of the show is the thing and the people don't matter.
Well, and the fact is, when we're looking at these three movies, you have to keep in mind that we touched earlier on the magic of old Hollywood. And a lot of that magic is that these truly were incredibly, generationally talented, all around performers. It wasn't just one thing they did well. You watch them and you realize they can sing, they can dance. Oliver Hardy was phenomenally spry for a big guy. They were they
Speaking
were
of
they
Dusty
were
Rhodes,
they were thoughtful. They really could do everything. It wasn't quite like nowadays and again, that's not to say there weren't people who just kind of accidentally just kind of fell ass backwards into fame. I mean, John Wayne famously was moving furniture on set as a stagehand,
yeah,
and the director liked the way he carried himself. It might have been Doug Ford, actually,
I think
or
Harrison
not,
Ford
or
famously
number.
was a
No,
carpenter.
no, not wasn't Doug Ford. He's a Canadian politician. Sorry, Andrew Graham. Oh, there was something Ford. Something was right. Anyway, I'll remember it later.
Let's
Anyway,
say Harrison Ford was a carpenter at the time he
it
was.
wasn't Harris. It wasn't Harrison Ford. I think Harrison Ford might have been a zygote back then.
No, I know, but that's another example.
Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah. You know, Wayne was moving furniture on a set. Director liked the way he carried himself. Was trying to make a case to, I think, the leading man in the movie who was having trouble coaching along, and that kind of led to John Wayne making a killing, making the same movie 500 fucking times for most of his career.
Right.
Harrison Ford was a carpenter, but he had a natural presence. He had a natural charisma. And, you can teach somebody to act. You can't teach those things. You can't necessarily teach carrying yourself
Right.
a certain magnetic way. And that was what these all had, is in addition to that talent, they also had that presence that I don't think we fully recognize today. Not very many of our greatest generational actors and actors, aside from a few, have.
So the movie, so she gets to England, and one of the reasons why I really drilled in on the mental illness stuff is here's an opportunity. I'm gonna sit in the closet and be impossible. Look, people are here. People love you. People have paid to come see you. What am I? Some kind of what am I, a clown for your amusement? Like, oh my god, Judy. And this she kind of goes up and down to where she's tolerable, she's intolerable, she's amazing, she's impossible, and it's a lot of bipolar, PTSD, personality disorder. Just throw a dart, you'll hit a mental illness. She's got it. Not to mention the substance abuse. So this goes on, and then she doesn't. Her voice is affected by the tracheotomy that she's had, which I do love this because I know people like this now who you're actively killing yourself. You've now smoked to the point where your health is deteriorating rapidly, and yet you keep smoking. In fact, I know somebody who carries around an oxygen tank and still smokes. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, she's had a tracheotomy. Her voice ain't what it used to be, and she continues to smoke. That sort of thing. She doesn't want to sing anymore. She's just kind of over it. But singing is the only thing that's paying the bills right now. And then she thinks she's going to get an opportunity to have an easier gig. And then she fucks up big enough to where now everyone's afraid of her. She's too flaky. She's too much of a risk. The deal falls through. She then has a giant temper tantrum, which gets her fired from Talk of the Town. And then she has an explosion with the current husband who she marries during the course of the film. And at the end of all things, she's like, I'd like to sing one last song. And so she does. She tries to make the best of a bad situation. She's off the show, but she shows up the one last night. She sings two songs. And what is the line? Promise you'll remember me, which is fucking sad. You won't forget me, will you? And then promise you won't. And the film end card says Judy died 6 months later in the summer of '69 at the ripe old age of 47, which I was last year, to give you some context. I said it before, the film has really no style to it. It's just, here's what happened at the end of this woman's poor life.
Yeah.
The most stylistic thing it does is bounce back between the Wizard of Oz and what she was doing at that age of her life and what she's doing now, so that you have context. The film's perspective is this girl suffered an unending torrent of abuse, all in the name of fame and fortune, and in the end, it killed her. That's the movie. Hope you like it, which I do. I think it's sad, it's tragic, but I think Renée Zellweger, like I said, has this really transformative performance, which she won an Oscar for it, as I recall. But I was reading some of the critical reception of it. Not everyone loves her performance in this. And I think the big knock against her is you're at a 10. It's distracting. We need you to be at a 6. And I don't know. I wasn't there, but I feel like that's how Judy Garland actually was. And I think Renée Zellweger really went for it to give you the authentic, coming apart at the seams Judy Garland, which is the point of the fucking movie. I really liked it. There isn't much more to it than Renée Zellweger as Judy. Ain't nobody else in this movie who's worth a fucking damn. Except for maybe Mayor during the Wizard of Oz scenes, who is the devil. He is just creepy and awful and horrible. And second to him is the woman managing the actresses, who's just like, here's pills, go to sleep. Here's pills, wake up. God, don't you dare eat that cheeseburger, you bitch.
Yeah, Louis B. Mayer was pretty much the closed beta for Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, my line that I was going to say was, this woman could have doubled as one of the teachers at fucking Hogwarts. Yes, thank you. The joke would have been funnier if I'd nailed the school. Anyway, my point is, you like old Hollywood, you like Judy Garland, you like mental illness and substance abuse stories. Watch Judy, Sean.
I mean, it was gripping. I certainly wasn't expecting a movie that focused so much on her later life, especially the very kind of last stanza of it.
Yeah.
But I don't know how I feel about the fact that it really let the abuse kind of off lightly. It felt like it didn't really drive home exactly how that broke her. So it's almost like you just have to kind of take the movie's word for it.
David Simon once said, somewhere out there, Robert's like, please stop referencing The Wire. The answer is no. I am who I am. Leave me alone. But David Simon once said, The Wire is too sad. That's the perception people have of it. It's too sad. And he was like, it could have been so much worse. Like, we could have put so much more into The Wire, but then it's so sad, it's unwatchable.
And I mean,
there are movies that deal with sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse. I hear what you're saying. I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I don't know if you go too far into that stuff, you're going to lose what they're trying to do on the other side of it. I guess would be my only defense of it.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely gets away from the idea of kind of boiling a woman down to just the abuse that she suffered and that's it.
Right.
And I like that it ends on kind of a triumphant note at the end. So I guess there's that too. I guess it just wasn't necessarily entirely what I was expecting, because like I said, I kind of expected a movie that went back further and was maybe going to show how those cracks really started to form. I ended up loving what was there. Don't get me wrong. And I love it because I think that's something that we have to kind of remember about that old Hollywood nostalgia, and kind of the dangerous thing about it, and about all nostalgia, is the fact that by all means, like what you like, cherish what you cherish. But, you sometimes also have to understand that, your your nostalgia boner is not necessarily going to be grounds for taking away from a deeper conversation that may surround that thing. And those things still need to be talked about. So you have to kind of have the maturity to understand that one doesn't negate the other, and that's a two-way street. That can't always be a shield when talking about bigger human issues that surrounds us. Well, hell, we talk about as wrestling fan. It's one of those things that always makes me a little bit comfortable when people talk about the Attitude Era and go really overboard with that nostalgia. Yeah, great, fantastic professional wrestling. Whole lot of people that I wish could still be around to talk about it because they absolutely 100% fucking should be. And
if you look at like the Hogan era and think about the amount of guys who died in their 40s between the cocaine and the steroids.
Oh my God, yes.
And then to me, it always gets summed up by Jake Roberts at the Hall of Fame, where he takes a beat. He's having a great speech. It's one of the, it's in the storied history of Jake's post career, where he's either a crackhead or he's doing awesome when no one quite knows for sure. He's doing this great speech. Everyone loves Jake. He could not be more charismatic and inviting, and just, oh my God, a window to a long lost bygone era. And he takes a beat with all of that, and he goes, all my friends are dead. And it's like, I've never heard a sadder line delivered during an acceptance speech. But
and Bret Hart has made a lot of the same observation, particularly having an entire special feature, a brief little clip montage in his, going way back, his WWE home video that he co-produced. It was just a montage of everybody, of like most of his kind of most noteworthy friends and colleagues over the years, who at the time were no longer with us. And since then, sadly, that list has grown. And I remember watching that, and it just jarring to think that all these people who, when I did the math, I realized absolutely should not be dead. We're no longer around to share in all these great memories.
Sid Udy, Psycho Sid Justice, whatever you want to call him.
He passed recently.
Yeah, he just died. He was born in 1960. Yeah, he died at the age of 63. Just still better than 47, but still not when you're supposed to die in the year of our Lord 2024.
Yeah, but I mean, but the really sad thing is the more we look at this, I want you to think about something. I want you to think about how many stories like Judy we're probably going to get in the coming decade or so, because you have, particularly I think from the early 2000s and late 90s, a lot of pop culture figures and entertainment icons of the time who we really relegated to joke butts back then. And we're only now starting to realize the kinds of horrors they were going through. And I think that's something about Judy that really drove me home, was frequently what you'll see in a lot of stories when someone famous is really lamenting that the price they paid or some of the people they had to work for. You'll always have some projecting jackass who will pop into the comments or the chat or whatever, say, but you sure did cash those checks though. Well, yeah, dumb fuck. That's precisely the problem. Is you have young, passionate, creative, dedicated performers who genuinely loved what they were doing, but they were also then put to the heartbreaking choice of, endure the sacrifice of your dignity and your innocence and your personal safety and sometimes your longevity, but here's a bunch of money and here's getting to do exactly what you love doing the most.
Yeah, the idea that people should be punished for being entertainers is pretty ridiculous.
Well, I mean, just in the past few years, we've seen a lot of exposés and memoirs from the likes of, just off the top of my head, Britney Spears, Lindsay Lohan, Pamela Anderson. If you want to go back generationally, my God, go listen to Elvira's memoir
Mm.
and listen to what she endured. Spoiler: you're never going to look at Andy Williams quite the same way again. But still to come, there are so many stories of these child stars that we haven't heard in full yet.
Oh my God,
And
Carrie Fisher's story.
Oh my God. It's like
if Judy Garland's
like,
too far back, check out Carrie Fisher's story. It's practically the same.
Yeah, like you want a Rushmore of exploited actors and actresses. Like it's like Carrie Fisher, Corey Feldman, Drew Barrymore, and yeah, I'd go ahead and probably throw Britney Spears on there. And the really sad thing is that keeps happening. And the really sad part is the people in charge are basically the same shitty monstrous fuckwits as those people in the comments who are saying, yeah, but you cashed the checks, didn't you? Except these are powerful fucking people. These are your Harvey Weinsteins of the world, your Vince McMahon, your Dr. Luke, who just sees someone with a dream and they just see someone that they can use up and spit out because there's always going to be another one.
There's always more. All right. Anything else about Judy before we go? I mean, like I said, I think it's a worthy watch. I think Renée Zellweger makes it a worthy watch. But whether you're interested in the subject matter or not, I think it's a well-made enough movie with a stellar performance at its sort of central leg. But it's not much going on besides that.